Alright, welcome to part 2 of Worlds Debate. Today we're going to be talking about some drills that you can do to help improve upon your Worlds Debate skills. Let's start with rhetoric and confidence. These are two things that are incredibly important in Worlds Debate, considering they make up, for example, style makes up one large part of the way in which judges give you points in the round. That being said, it's something that can be hard to achieve. Speaking in front of people or simply giving a speech that sounds nice are things that are hard to do and that need to come with practice. That being said, here are two drills that can help you improve upon those skills. The first being, just change up your style during practice rounds. You don't want to go into a tournament not knowing what your ideal style is. So therefore, you should try changing up your style during practice rounds, as these are the best times to find out if you are good or are not good at something. You don't want to go into a round trying to be funny and find out you're not exactly funny, because that won't go over well with the judge, nor will it go over well with your ballots. So, practice rounds are the best time to do this. There's no risk of losing, and you have people willing to give you feedback on whether or not you sounded nice or not. If, however, you don't have a team to support you necessarily with times to do practice rounds, a good way to also do this is just record speeches. You can show them to friends, coaches, parents, etc., and they'll be able to give you some feedback on whether or not they found your speech persuasive. Keep in mind that Worlds Debate has judges that come from all types of professions, walks of life, which means that they don't necessarily have to be someone who entirely understands the intricacies of every single debate format. Let's go on to the confidence aspect. It can be hard to stand up in front of a crowd and give a speech. Believe me, I know. My freshman year, I got extreme stage fright and crashed and burned in front of an entire room full of people. It was not fun. So here's some ways that'll help you improve upon speaking in front of other people. The best way to do this, once again, is just practice. Speak in front of parents, coaches, friends, even your dog or your cat, etc. And these are all ways that'll help you get used to speaking in front of others. It'll be hard to do it initially, but the more and more you do it, the more and more it'll become like muscle memory to a certain extent. You'll be able to give better speeches simply because you have more confidence in speaking in front of other people. Next are POI drills. Remember from my previous video, POIs are points of information and are questions or statements that you or your opponent can ask to your opponent or you about your speech. The first drill is fairly simple. Look up a motion, and I'll have a link in the description of past Worlds motions, and simply quickly prep it out for like maybe 15 minutes. Do like a shortened version of an impromptu round. After doing this, give a speech, stand up in front of other people, and have them ask you POIs. Accept the POIs regardless of whether or not you want to. You can get to like a quick stopping place and then accept the POI. But at the end of the day, every POI that's asked, you need to accept. These are really good because it forces you to think on your feet. Rapid POIs make you have to think up answers really quickly at the top of your head and come up with a good way to respond to them, which is why these are incredibly beneficial because they force you to respond to POIs you also might not be prepared for. Should one of your teammates or should someone who's listening ask you a question that you don't know how to respond to. Okay, on to the next drill. This drill is called the impossible motion drill, and it goes as follows. You have 5 minutes to prep out a case with 3 substantives and a potential model of a motion that sounds impossible to defend. The example would be, this house believes that senior citizens should get out of the way. It sounds crazy at face value, but you should essentially come up with 3 substantives that'll make it not sound so morally horrible. After that, you have about 5 minutes of questioning where people simply get up and POI you on the model and substantives that you presented. This model is beneficial for the same reasons the previous one was, that it forces you to think on your feet, but it also forces you, even more so than the previous drill, to come up with responses to questions you're not prepared for. It's really hard to defend these motions, that's why they're called impossible motions, and it'll force you to come up with answers to something that you don't know how to respond to. An added benefit to this drill is that it's also great practice for impromptu rounds for the person prepping out the speech. Let's go then on to impromptu drills. I have 2 drills for impromptu rounds, one for teams and one for individuals, and they're both fairly similar. Starting with the team drill, get together your team and pick a motion. Once again, I have a list in the description, and just prep it out for an hour. If you're feeling up to it, even maybe debate the motion with another team if you have like enough members to do so. As you get more and more confident with the drill, start cutting down the amount of time you have to prep. So start with an hour, then maybe move on to 50 minutes, then 40 minutes, and eventually try to get down to 15 minutes to prep your case out. These are really good because once again, like the POI drills, they force you to think on your feet, but more importantly, they force you to come up with arguments quickly and develop layers of analysis for them quickly. The point of the drill isn't just to come up with 3 basic substantives or 3 basic taglines. You actually need to be able to flesh out your arguments and come up with layers of analysis to present in a speech. That's why these drills are so beneficial, because the less time you get, you still have to come up with the same amount of material. That way, when it comes to actual tournaments where you have an hour, it'll feel like a breeze coming up with cases that'll fit an entire 8-minute speech. The individual drill is fairly similar, except it's for those who don't have a team. Understandably, you might not always be able to do these types of drills with a team, which is why it's also good to have an individual version of the drill. In this drill, you have 15 minutes to do the exact same thing. Prep out a case, come up with 3 substantives, and once again, if you feel 15 minutes is too short, start with an hour, then cut it down to 50, cut it down to 40. These are also beneficial for the same ways the team drill is beneficial, except it's just for those who simply can't get a team together to do the drill. That way you can still record the speech and show it to other people and still get feedback on the types of information and types of ideas you're turning out. It's also good for the individual because you can learn about topics that you might necessarily not know information about. Sometimes within a team, it's often easy to forget to simply read about certain topics or understand types of information as long as your teammate understands it. This drill forces you to understand what types of information you do and do not know in order to better prepare yourself for the future. Now, the last thing I have to talk about isn't a drill, it's just a piece of advice. Read a lot. The best way to get better at this format is to just know more about the world. Read about current events, learn about recent history, find international examples for topics you don't know that much about. Keep in mind that World's Debate is an international format. A judge isn't going to be particularly receptive to a case built entirely of US examples, which is why it's so important that you learn as much as you possibly can about the world. That being said, that's all I have for this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll be able to practice these drills and improve your World's Debate skills. Thanks.
Okay.